So continuing with quadratic equations, another method to solve quadratic equations is factorization. So you have already learned splitting the middle term method. So that is applied in case you see there is an equation and you are applying that method and you're able to split the middle term. You're able to find the numbers, the two numbers, which will be the sum and the product of two other numbers that you're aware of. And that method will be useful in questions of word problem mostly. In case you have framed an equation with the word problem given, and then usually that word problem equation will be factorizable and you will get your roots, your solutions. But in case again, if you're not able to factorize at that moment, because splitting the middle term requires some bit of trial and error, if you feel like, you can always use the quadratic formula also. Now one thing I wanted to say is that quadratic equation can come up in other topics also, other chapters also. For example, in banking, in case the question is finding the time period, the number of months, then once you use the interest formula, you will get n square term. So that is again a quadratic equation. Or if you see anything with maybe any other algebra topic or geometry topic, you might have a question which will end up in a quadratic equation and that you have to solve it. So then you can think of factorizing it or using the quadratic formula. And specifically, there would be maybe one question in the entire paper which is a word problem specific to quadratic equation. So again, the word problems might be based on any topic really, and the common topics that I have noticed is based on numbers. There are some natural numbers or integers or some type of consecutive whole numbers, something like that, and some condition will be given. You just need to read the question, take a variable x, and then try to make an equation out of x, and then solve and write the final answer. And in case there are units involved, you have to write the unit in the final answer. In case if it is speed or time or distance or age or whatever else is possible, that you have to do. Now don't need to look up very complicated word problems right now. I don't think any complicated problem will be asked, like upstream, downstream, that I have seen usually in CBSE, not in ICSE. So focus on numbers, speed, distance, time, or some miscellaneous sort of things which are more common. Then the chapter of ratio proportion. Again, ratio just by itself is not in the syllabus for grade 10. So you'll have questions on proportion only. Now proportion is nothing but two or more equal ratios. So using that concept, you have to solve questions. For example, we might have a proportion A by B equal to C by D. Another way to write it is A is to B is proportional to C is to D. The notation might vary, but it's still the same thing. Now, continued proportion is a special kind of proportion where the mean term is the same thing. So you know extreme and mean terms. Suppose here in this general proportion, A and D are the extreme terms, B and C are the mean terms. So in case I have A by B equal to B by C, that is a continued proportion because the mean proportional is the same thing. So in any proportion, you have to know that there are the first, second, third proportional. In this type of proportion, A by B, C by D, there are four numbers. So there are four. For example, A is first proportional, B is second proportional, C is third proportional, D is fourth proportional. But in your continued proportion, A is first proportional, B is mean proportional, C is third proportional. So you have to be aware about these different terms. And you might have questions of maybe simple proofs that given some proportion or some continued proportion, prove that something equal to something. So for any sort of proof, please take LHS, RHS separately and simplify them. There is another thing called K method that might be useful sometimes. So depending on the question, you have to figure out which method you might want to use. You can go through some examples. Then you might also have numerical questions like in this proportion, what will be the mean proportional? Something like that. Simple ones also can be asked. And another very important part of this chapter is properties of proportion. There are 5 properties: invertendo, alternando, componendo, dividendo, 4 of them. And another which is very commonly used is a combination of componendo and dividendo. So you might have questions on, again, simple proofs or to find the value of something. So you can again just look up some of those type of questions. And whenever you're applying any property of proportion, try to mention beside it that okay, I have used componendo and dividendo. So that will be good. And in any ratio question, if they're asking like this, what is m is to n? And if you're getting some answer, let's say m by n is 2 by 3, do also write the answer, final answer, as 2 is to 3. You have to match the format what is asked in the question. If the question was what is m by n, then you can leave the answer as 2 by 3. Don't forget to do that. Next is factorization of polynomials based on remainder and factor theorem. So again, just brush up what is remainder theorem, what is factor theorem. This is more of a procedure of how to find the remainder quickly without doing long division of polynomial. And here these theorems are applicable when the divisor is a linear polynomial. So in any division, I have dividend, divisor, quotient and remainder. So the divisor here should be a linear polynomial, something in the format of, let's say, x minus 3 or 2x plus 1. So based on that, the theorem will tell you, find out for what value of x is the divisor going to be equal to 0. So if my divisor is x minus 3, for x equal to 3, it's going to be 0. Then x equal to 3, you have to substitute in dividend, evaluate, and whatever number you get is the remainder when you do the division. And in case the remainder is 0, then I can say the divisor is a factor of the dividend. Let's say the divisor was 2x plus 1. For x equal to minus 1 by 2, it's going to be 0. So then x equal to minus 1 by 2, you have to substitute in dividend, and that whatever value you get is the remainder of the division. And then applying this to factorize polynomials, you will have to factorize mostly cubic polynomials, something like 2x cube plus something x square, let's say 5x square minus 4x plus 3. So you'll have a cubic polynomial, and there are 2 types of questions possible. One is just the polynomial given and they will ask you using remainder or factor theorem, factorize it completely. Or they might ask you to verify whether x plus 1 is a factor of the polynomial, hence factorize the entire polynomial. Or they might tell you that a student found out that 2x plus 1 is a factor, where they correct, and then hence factorize it completely. So depending on the question, your steps that you have to write will vary. Then the next question is on matrices. Again, matrices has lot of terms involved, so just go and revise all the terms that you need to be familiar with. So there are different types of matrices. You can have row matrix, column matrix, null matrix, or identity matrix, square, rectangular. All of those terms are there, and just check the connection between them. What means what? For example, if you have something to do with square matrix, then diagonal matrix and unit matrix. All diagonal matrices are square and all unit matrices are diagonal. Something like that. And order of a matrix again is very important. order of a matrix will tell you how many rows and columns the matrix has. In case I have something like this, 1, 2, so I have 2 rows and 1 column. So this order of this matrix is 2 by 1, 2 rows, 1 column, like that. Compatibility for addition and multiplication is again, in what situation is addition, subtraction or multiplication possible? Addition and subtraction are possible only when I have two matrices of the same order. If I have different order matrices, I cannot do addition or subtraction. And for multiplication, it's like, let's say I have matrix A and B. I need to have, let's say if I talk about 2 by 1 and 1 by 2. I have to have the same number of columns of the first matrix equal to the same number of rows in the second matrix. Only then multiplication is possible, and the resulting matrix will have these number of rows, these number of columns. So it is 2 by 2 here. Null and identity matrix I have talked about. And then finally addition, subtraction, multiplication of 2 by 2 matrices. Multiplication of 2 by 2 mostly will be asked, or maybe 2 by 1, 1 by 2. 3 by 3 or anything large like that will not be asked. Yeah, multiplication of matrices. Then we have APGP. So again for APGP, till now word problems have not been asked, so I don't think that there will be any word problems as such. Only the focus of APGP will be two things: the general term or the nth term and the sum of first n terms. So there are formulas for AP and GP separately. Just remember these formulas and see what information is given, apply the formula and get the answer. So if you remember, for AP, nth term formula is what? An is A plus n minus 1 into D. First term A, common difference D, and then sum of n terms is n by 2 into 2A plus n minus 1 into D, which is also same as n by 2 into first term plus the nth term or the last term. An is same as writing L. Sometimes you can use L also for last term, which is same as nth term. So you can find this first and then plug in this value over here. It's the same thing. This is for AP. And for GP, the nth term will be A r to the power n minus 1. R will be the common ratio for GP. And sum of n terms will be A into r to the power n minus 1 by r minus 1. Now in your textbook you might find whether r is more than 1, less than 1, something like that. But this formula will work whether r is more than 1 or positive, negative, whatever cases are given, it's fine. Only for r equal to 1, then definitely don't apply this because the denominator will be 0. If common ratio is r, then the sum will be n times r, something like that. But this formula will work if r is not equal to 1. Any other value is fine. Then for coordinate geometry, again, first is reflection. So graph work might be required. I'm sure you have practiced graph work by now. Or another possibility is maybe the graph is given in the question and some answers are being asked with the graph which is given. So some terms are important for reflection. Invariant point, which is very important. So you need to know that invariant point means if there is a point and there is a line. If the point is on the line, when you're reflecting it, the image is going to be the same point. It's not going to change. So that is invariant point. And reflection of a point you have to do either along one of these lines. Now x equal to 0 is what axis? It is y-axis. Some students may make mistakes here. Y-axis equation is x equal to 0 and x-axis equation is y equal to 0. Or you can also have something like x equal to 3, x equal to minus 3, or y equal to 5, y equal to minus 5. So that you have to draw in the graph properly and then find out object distance equal to image distance. If you do, you will be able to find the reflected point very easily. And for the origin, if you're reflecting any point, the x and y coordinate sign will change. Positive will become negative, negative will become positive, like that. Okay, then please remember, if you're doing graph work, write the coordinates with pencil in the graph work, and if there are any subparts asked in the question, write in the main answer sheet with the correct main question number, subpart number, all of that. And most common question is to find the geometrical name of the shape. So please name the polygon, count the number of sides, check the properties, and name the polygon according to that. Don't write any common names, please avoid doing that. Then for section midpoint formula, please revise what the formula is once. And generally what I like to do is, I like to just draw a rough like this. There's a line segment, there are two endpoints, let's say A, x1, y1 coordinate, B, x2, y2. Then there'll be some other point somewhere in between A and B, let's say C. To find the coordinates of C, let's say x comma y, is where we apply section formula. Now we need to know what is the ratio of division of the line segment. What is AC is to CB? So let's say the ratio is m is to n. AC is to CB is m is to n. You have to make sure that you are getting that ratio. The question can also give ratio of AC is to AB. Then that's not the same thing. You have to figure out what is AC is to BC. I need that ratio. Once I have that, this coordinate of C, x coordinate, is going to be m into x2, mx2, plus n into x1 by m plus n. And y coordinate of point C will be similar way, my2 plus ny1 by m plus n. So this rough figure helps me understand, okay, m into that other coordinate over there, n into the opposite side coordinate. Then centroid of a triangle, formula is very simple. It's just the average of x and y coordinate. Triangle will have 3 points, so x coordinate average, take the sum, divide by 3. Y coordinate sum, divide by 3. And centroid of a triangle, the centroid divides the median in the ratio 2:1. In case any question is asked, you will know. Then equation of a line is again very interrelated to section midpoint formula. You can have a question which combines both the topics together. Now equation of a line is a long chapter. There are many concepts involved, so you can expect to be little higher weightage for this chapter. So you have to again go back to the basic concepts. A line in a graph represents a linear equation in two variables. The graph will have x-axis, y-axis. So if you have any linear equation in two variables, it can be represented in a line. And then let's say this is my line. The line is made of infinite points. Every point is a solution of the equation. Every point will have coordinates. So let's say I have a point here, -2, 3. So x equal to 2 and y equal to 3 is a solution of that equation. If there is a point outside the line, let's say 5, -4, then x equal to 5 and y equal to -4 is not a solution of the equation. And if there are two equations which are intersecting at a point, let's say point of intersection is 3, 4, then that is the common solution for both the equations. So in case you have to find the point of intersection of two lines, solve the two equations simultaneously. That will give you the intersection point. Then you have to know the concept of inclination and slope. So inclination is the angle made by any line with the positive direction of x-axis. So this angle, let's say if it is 30°, so this line has inclination of 30°, and the slope of the line will be tan 30°, which if you know is 1 by root 3. Slope of a line can also be found if you know two points, the coordinates of any 2 points on the line. Then slope, you can also say, is difference of y coordinates by difference of x coordinates. And then there are some forms of equation of a line. Okay, so before that, another thing you need to know is condition for parallel and perpendicular lines. So if there are parallel lines, slopes are equal. If there are perpendicular lines, product of slopes is equal to -1. That is very commonly asked. And then yes, forms of equation of a line. There is a slope intercept form, 2-point form, all of that. So slope intercept form, y equal to mx plus c. M is slope of the line, c is the y intercept. Y intercept is how much length the line cuts from the origin till where it cuts the y-axis. It can be positive or negative. So if suppose information about slope and y-intercept are given, you can always substitute m and c values to write the equation of the line. Another one is point slope form, where coordinate of one point is given and the slope of the line is known. Then you can use y minus y1 equal to m into x minus x1. x1, y1 will be the coordinates of the point on the line. M will be the slope of the line. So this is point slope form, and what they're mentioning 2-point form is like when 2 points on the line are known, then what you need to do is just find the slope with this formula, difference of y coordinate by difference of x coordinate, and then out of x1, x1, y1, x2, y2, take any one point and then plug in the coordinates in the same thing that you see here, y minus y1 equal to m into x minus x1. So this will help you write the equation of the given line. So just check what information is given about the line, and then that will help you to write the equation of the line. Geometry will continue in the next video.